Well, good evening. How nice of you all to stop by. It's so nice to see everybody. And I'm Trina Eness. That's Louis T. Eness, and he's going to just keep playing that song till he gets it just the way he wants it, because that's what he does. And this is the location where Lou started his music store back in 1914. So built up quite a business selling pianos all around this area. Some of you might have a piano in your family that was sold to you by Lou Eness. He sold other musical instruments, and he also gave musical lessons. And he loved going around to some of the surrounding communities and organizing live performances. So he did orchestra performances in Randall, Story City area, and also around here. So he loved anything to do with music. In 1917, the old man who owned the building, Mr. Martin, passed away, and he had lived in the back part of the building. And so Lou decided to buy the building, and he paid about $700 for it. But to be honest with you, it really was not worth very much. It was one of the worst buildings on Main Street. The timbers underneath were completely rotted out. So once the Martin heirs agreed on selling the building, Lou hired the fellow that had moved the old schoolhouse up to our farm a mile north of here to lift up the building, and he put new timbers under it, he put a good foundation under it, and he dug a cellar under part of it. So you might say he got it fixed up for the next century, because as you can see, it's still standing today. After he got it all fixed up, we decided to rent our farm and move with our children here. We had Eugene, who was 9 years old, Lucille was 7, and Dagmar was 5, and Thomas was 3. And we moved with them into the apartment, and it was absolutely wonderful for me because I finally had electricity for the first time, had running water, and an indoor toilet. So it was really a very nice place for me to live. We rented our farm to John Broughton, who was a newcomer from Norway, and he was to run the farm, and we were going to live here until a couple months later, when he got drafted into the Army. There was a war going on in Europe, you know. It was the war to end all wars. Have you heard about that? And so he was drafted, and then we decided to move back to the farm. It really wasn't all that bad, though, because I had a real tough time keeping Eugene here, and he wanted to walk out to Johnny Gildersleeve's, to his cousins, all the time, and he would rather be on the farm where he could ride his horse. And one day, little Tommy started running right straight to the railroad tracks, and I looked, and I could see there was a train coming, and I knew if I ran after him, he would think it was a game and I was chasing him, and he would just keep running. So I had to just stand still. And I'll tell you, my heart just about stood still too, because I was so afraid he was running right into the train. But he did hear the train, and he stopped in time, so it turned out okay. But I wasn't that sorry that we had to move back to the farm, because I really didn't like raising my children on Gilbert's Main Street. In 1920, Lou had been running the music store here. In 1920, then he moved the store to Ames. But before he did that, he had introduced the latest in modern technology in music to the community of Gilbert. He held a big benefit event where he introduced the graphanola, and he had Columbia graphanola, phonograph type of thing, and Columbia records for sale. So people could now take these records home and listen to the classics right in their own home. Well, unfortunately, that also meant that people didn't enjoy going to these live performances that he enjoyed putting on, along with the Chernigals and others from Story City. And they would not get the turnout for the live music anymore. So it had a kind of a mixed blessing. Yes, he sold some of the records, but he no longer put on those live performances. So after he moved the music business to Ames, many people talk about buying groceries here. So there must have been a number of different people that owned a store and sold groceries. And in 1944, Doc and Helen Dickinson bought the building, and Doc moved his barber shop here. They also ran the post office in this building, and I think it's such an innovative idea to run a business and a post office in a small town in the same building, and keep those two running so efficiently, don't you think? I'm sure a little bit of gossip took place there too, and it was kind of a community center in a lot of ways where people met. Doc died in 1970, so he actually was the longest proprietor of the building. About 6 years ago, the Schwagers bought the building, Brenda and Neil, and they sell all kinds of interesting things there. It represents most anything that you might have ever seen sold in that building. I don't know they've had any pianos, but they have had a violin or two. So they also say maybe some of those old shopkeepers are still hanging around to help them out with the business. Any questions I can answer for you? If not, we really thank you for stopping by this evening. And if this old house could talk, I'm sure it'd have a lot more stories for you.